Hi, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can qualify if you don't have assets, like in the to have a guardian. We have seen the case of many celebrities, people with assets, and those are in public view. But what if you don't have that kind of asset? You don't have any funding to fund your own, your guardianship. I mean, to have a guardian to take care of you. If you are not able to manage your own affairs, like saying your appointment, your medical appointment, your finances, if you have any, and of course, the activities of daily living, generally speaking, right? Um, at any age, this video is about adult guardianship because there are different type of guardianship. Guardianship for kids, for children, guardianship for disabilities, for people with disabled, who are disabled for any reason, maybe for that they serve in the armed forces. Of course, they have the VA system that works for them, but other people with disability, it could be younger, that even 25 years old, 20, almost any age. Many people qualify for disabilities. In fact, in the United States, in all 50 states and territories, there are little more than 1 million people under the guardianship system at different levels, of course. It sounds like lots of people, right? More than 1 million. But people in jail, it's like, I'm not the one to say that people in guardianship are in jail, right? But people in jail are almost getting to 2 million, right? 2 million people in the US. The population, the jail system population is around all close to 2 million people. But let's talk about these million and little more than million people who are on their guardianship at different level, different stage of guardianship system. In New York State, where we have, we've been talking about how is it working for celebrity, talk show host Wendy Williams, which has been on the limelight, on the focus of attention. But it brings to our for the general public uh, to find out exactly how those deals really works. Just in case if you wonder, you know, just the whatever is going on with her, that doesn't mean that the same way is gonna go for any regular people. I mean, layman. I mean, people. If you are a blue collar worker or if you don't have that kind of asset that she has. Think about the Britney Spears case, right? Another celebrity. A few years ago, she went through the same system of guardianship and conservatorship, which is close to, similar to guardianship, but with more restrictions, of course. In the Britney Spears case, of course, she was very much going through a psychotics, situation in which she was out of control. I mean, and it did originate by addiction also. That's the similarity with this case, which is not this, which is not the same as the Bruce Willis case that has the same disease, which is dementia, like um, uh, Wendy Williams dementia, the same type of dementia as Bruce Willis, but it did not originate it. Bruce Willis dementia did not originate it because he had any kind of like a addiction. We are not talking about social drinker, people who smoke occasionally. We are not talking about that. We are talking about um, addiction, heavy addiction, which and we know about Wendy Williams has been struggling for a long, long time and well known. It's been on the public view what she's been going through with alcohol addiction. But in the Britney Spears case, remember that when she went to, she ended up after a big concert in Vegas, in Las Vegas, Nevada, in which the next morning, I mean, she ended up marrying somebody who barely she knew. I mean, she was drunk. She ended up, marrying, how the speedy marriage is in Las Vegas, that by the law of, the state of Nevada allows, speedy marriage, which just if you show an ID, a driver's license, you can get married to somebody else. I mean, just like that quick, right? Or get on and or get divorced the following a few hours later if you wish to get divorced. So, in the case of business, she didn't know what she was doing. She said when she was sober, I mean, after drinking all night, she ended up marrying, and she didn't know what she was doing. But She ended up marrying with somebody else somebody who barely she knew. But it could be, that's out of control situation. She declared after that, she was telling, the news media 2 days later that she didn't know what she was doing. So just by saying that, of course, that you don't know what you're doing, I mean, that you're out of control. So that's the whole, trigger, the trigger to be in a guardianship, that you are out of control, that you are not exactly know what exactly what's going to be having next to you. I mean, the next step, if you're going to have lunch and dinner, who's going to fix lunch for you? I mean, what is your plan for tomorrow? I mean, confusion, right? I mean, totally out of control, meaning out of that you can manage yourself for the activities of daily living. And that's what it went on with Britney Spears, that she ended up getting divorced. I mean, the whole thing was crazy. I mean, but she ended up with the guardianship system in California. That was in California, right? It started in Nevada, but ended up in California, and eventually she got off of it. I mean, she got rid of the guardian, and in a way, it's a way of saying it's not like something is. When I said she got rid of it, I'm not implying that the system is really bad. All I'm trying to say is that we all, I mean, every human being, we all want to be independent. We all want to have a normal life, as normal as possible. And to do that, of course, we have to be in control of ourselves. I mean, as an adult, right? We need to make adult decisions, and then and know what you're doing. I mean, have a normal social our surroundings. Otherwise, somebody's gonna have to say something. In this case, in Wendy Williams' case, well, it was a Wells Fargo. I mean, an institution. And that's what the difference is between states like New York State, and not just in this particular item, this particular situation, in which basically anybody can originate, almost any person or institution in this case, which is different than in the state of New Mexico. The state of New Mexico, individual persons can originate. It could be a family member. It could be the same person, the person that wants to be in that needs a guardian, actually, right? In the case of New Mexico. And so that's what happened in New York State within the Wendy Williams case. It started with a mismanage of fundings of Wendy Williams assets at the bank, with her bank account. That things were going really unusual. Spending was taking place, and they sounded the alarm. And that's how the whole investigation originated. And how does New York State works? Well, New York State doesn't have a public funding or a statewide public funding for adult guardianship. They may have a little bit for kids, for children, but not for adults. In the case of comparing, how New Mexico works, the state of New Mexico. In the state of New Mexico, there is public funding for that. I mean, of course, if the person qualifies, if the individual qualifies, so it's not like everybody gets free funding. It's not the case, because remember the case of Gene Hackman. People like Gene Hackman, other celebrities, other people with assets, they're not able to qualify for public funding in case of if they need guardian, right? So, but it has the system in New Mexico allows there is statewide funding for to fund. I mean, the court is in charge of allocating funds to fund and to pay for guardians, to pay for meals, to pay for housing for the individual that needs the funding. But of course, people need to qualify for that. I mean, there's a benchmark of qualification. Of course, if people making six figures, in New Mexico, six figures or more, I mean, they're not able to qualify. But in the case of New York, in New York State, there is no statewide funding, public funding for such event. I mean, for adult guardianship. What they take place is that every city, every locality, every village, city or county, if the city council, right, not the state, if the city council allocate some funding for that kind of help, they will help. They'll help meaning, or they'll help with. Of course, they have the shelter system in which many of these people even qualify. People who qualify in New Mexico for statewide funding in New York State will be in a particular city. It will be ended up in a homeless shelter for sure, or institution or non-profit organization that helps, even churches have help. Of course, the city helps with, they have a, some allocation for that. But what happens if the funding, I mean, whatever they allocated, like 3 million or 5 million, whatever is the amount, it stops. I mean, it runs out in 2 or 3 months, right? During the year. Let's say it's for the year 2025, 2026. But if the funding, runs out, because so many cases, right, in that particular city or that particular county, and the funds finish, I mean, ends up, in 2 or 3 months, that's it, right? So people are, off on the streets, ended up on the street, even with mental situation, even with Alzheimer, with dementia. I mean, so many people that, there are over 20,000 people in New York, in the city of New York, just in the New York City. I mean, homeless. I mean, people with dementia are running around on the streets, with different illnesses, addictions, and different old illnesses. Who really needs? I mean, these people need guardians too. They need an institution to be taken care of. They need to be on an institution just like this one, where Wendy Williams is still staying, right? This assisted living facility with 24/7 medical care and luxury, luxury prison, she calls, right? She calls many people on the streets wish they could they could qualify for a place like that. But of course, in the case of Wendy Williams, it's a privately, in the New York State system, is the judge that allocates depending on what the funding is. I mean, depending on the person has the sufficient assets, and of course, the payment for the examiners, for the payment for the evaluator, the payment for the guardian and attorneys, and all comes from the funds of from the money that the person has. In this case, Wendy Williams coffer from the from bank accounts, and this is and one of the issues, recent crisis, because what I can say is what we have seen in the last few days, 3 or 4 days, is a mental crisis. I mean, it's a crisis involving with Wendy Williams being on the streets. I mean, basically calling the police office, the New York Police Department, to be picked up at the place where she was staying. I think it's the 4th or 5th floor, and of course a paparazzi was there to get the whole news on and have public awareness of what's going on with her. And one of the worries she worries is that her funds are running out. I mean, drying out, and that's one of her biggest concern. And that issue of money is making things worse for her, not better. I mean, we all been saying, well, some reporters are saying, well, and friends, close friends, I'm not doubting their honesty. I mean, that they're saying that the Wendy Williams they talk to, is the same Wendy Williams from years ago. I mean, that she's definitely getting better. Yes, but when the phrases that she used, I mean, statements, even those interviews, publicly, she's saying, in a public manner. I mean, she says that she recalls being just a few days ago when she says that she was asking herself, what am I doing here? I mean, what am I doing here in a place where, I did hear many times that questions, or as myself working at a nursing home, what am I doing here? That's, from residents who stay there for different mental, dementia, Alzheimer, and different, illnesses. And the next question, the following question, who am I? That's one of the other questions that I hear. I did hear a lot for years working at nursing home, more than 3 years, working 6-7 days, sometimes even 7 days a week. Almost every month I had to work 7 days a week because of the, shortage of employees. I mean, people quit quit their jobs of 2 3 weeks. It's a heavy work. It's a heavy work, meaning you need to give a lot, mentally, physically, psychologically. You give a lot. For, of course, the payment was more than minimum wage payment, but I love doing it. I did love it. I did, but the, going back to the case, I had to talk to my own experience to how can I relate to you. What was, that's the best way for me to relate to you. What is going on in her mind? And when she's talking about the system where she is in now for 3 years now, of course, that's a long time to be in a guardianship system, and of course, confined in an assisted living system. Remember, she was in Connecticut for a year, and she explained that she did explain that was even worse. That this was little improvement. This was improved, of course. The one assisted living that is expensive, $18,000 a month. I mean, think about $18,000 a month. It's like a 4-star hotel somewhere in a resort somewhere in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, I believe. I mean, $18,000 a month. You can be an expert. I mean, that's just an idea, right? I mean, if you travel anywhere, I mean, you can be in a 5-star hotel with a guardian, somebody who can help you, a personal assistant that has the knowledge of what's going on with you, of course. I mean, and of course, medical supervision. I mean, dementia is not something that an easy thing to deal with. And of course, the declining, dementia. Dementia is a disease that there's no improvement. I mean, there's no improvement. You can get better for days, and I have seen it. I saw it at a nursing home where I was working. Some days you can be lucid, bright, and very much normal, very much that you're in control. That you are very clear of everything. You can read newspapers, you can watch TV, you have normal conversation. I have so many conversations, thousands of conversations with patients, not just with dementia, of course. I was in the memory unit for a while, just the same memory unit she's in right now. They have in the nursing home I was working, it was a small memory unit in which we had like 6-7 patients, perhaps, out of 24, maybe 6, which was, in a different section, of course, but the same floor. You have 24 residents on a floor. Let's say you have 6-7 people with dementia, of different stages of dementia, of course. And the idea of different stage of dementia, you have to deal differently with every person at hand. And some of my work was that part of my work was that to have that kind of conversation, socially, part of the job of the assisted, the nurse's aide is to have that social connection with residents, social connection that can help the residents, and have an evaluation. My report you had to put in my daily report, end of the day report, how I found each resident. If I had 6-7 residents that day from my shift that particular day, I had to write it down that a patient with dementia today is very lucid, plenty of conversation. She knew where she was. She knew who the president was at the time. Those questions were typical questions that we asked. I mean, not just psychiatrists, not just doctors. We had to ask. We had the conversation. We had to go through different questions and allow them to ask us questions to have a normal conversation, friendly conversation with the patient. So they don't feel like, so the patient doesn't feel like she's been like scrutinized and she's been investigated. Oh, this is going to be, what you asking me this for? I mean, but we have to be a little social to them. That's part of our work, to have that social connection with the patient. I mean, to not just help them out physically, to bathe, to do the shower. I mean, to go to the shower, to at night give them the lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever was the case, whatever the shift was. But I had to deal with my work was with the people with dementia too, just like in the Wendy Williams case. She talks about the facility where she's in, that most of them, she says, I quote, most of them are very nice. Not just nice, very compassionate. And it's very limited. It's, let's say, if she asks for a cell phone that she wants, or she asks for something, for a for something, for a liquor, the the employees are not allowed to do many things. I mean, many the employees can bring another extra sandwich, right? Let's another sandwich, maybe a fruit, like a fruit basket or something. Sorry, something just fell on my, a fruit basket, that that's allowed on for her diet, right? But there are many things, or like a nourishment, right? Little biscuit. If the coffee is allowed, in many people with dementia, they don't allow coffee. Like if you have even decaf, sometimes you allow a little decaf coffee, which is free caffeine. I mean, there are so many limitations. So the issue here is not that you are a guest at a hotel, a 5-star hotel. It's a luxury, of course. It looks, this facility in downtown Midtown, Manhattan, it's a luxury. It resembles a luxury hotel. The only difference is that you can't go anywhere. I mean, can you go? Can the patient? She's a patient. I mean, she's not just a hotel guest. She's a patient there. She's not just a go. Of course, the employee needs a key to open the door. Of course, in a way, it's like she feels like she's locked up. I mean, she's like there's a punishment going. I mean, that they're mean to her. But that's the rule. I mean, these facilities are run with state. They're regulated by the states. What if something happens? If Wendy Williams go across the street, gets out of the facility on her own, and gets get an accident. Somebody, a bus. Think about Midtown Manhattan. I mean, people would drive like crazy. I mean, have you been there? Manhattan, Fifth Avenue, all this, Broadway. It's a crazy. It's a crazy. People drive bicycles, delivery bicycles all over the place, motorcycles, cars. I mean, people speeding, taxi drivers. Hello, yellow taxi drivers in New York. I mean, all these taxi drivers, Uber, driving like they're driving in Daytona. I mean, Daytona 500, Indianapolis 500. I mean, so if Wendy Williams goes across the street to get something, a vape, something, from the store, even a chewing gum from the store, and something happens to her, guess whose fault is this? I mean, guess who's liable? There's going to be millions and billions. I mean, of a lawsuit. For what? For negligence. I mean, the institution, the nursing home, or in this case, the assisted living facility, they're going to be liable for millions of dollars of lawsuits because of negligence. How they could allow somebody who's in the facility go by herself, unattended, to the store because she wants to be more free, have more freedom to do whatever she wants to do. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but the system, there are check and balances, guys. I mean, there are check and balances. There are check and balances in the system that where she is in. And I'm not saying that, of course, the latest test that she went through in this facility in Lenox Lewis hospital is going to help, of course, in that process of getting, become independent again. If that was the case. But how many people come back from dementia? I mean, it's sad to say, but dementia is a declining. I mean, there is only declining. You can slow the process with medication, slow the process with therapy, slow the process. Slowing the process means that you can be lucid. A patient with dementia can be lucid for days sometimes. But how sustainable is that? You can be the person can be lucid for a couple of weeks, but then something kicks in and declines. Remember, this is a mental health. There is no cure for dementia. There is no cure for Alzheimer. So they still don't know why there's up and down, slippery slope up and down in dementia cases. They can only hold it up, slow a little bit. In some cases, they're not even slowing down, even with the best doctors in this field, in dementia, that they're able to slow down the disease. It's just declining. I mean, the idea that, well, now she's getting better, 1 in 100,000 people really recover fully and it's not going to be for, it could be for a couple of years, but remember, she's 60, which is very much, she's a young age. She's very young, I mean 60, and she looks younger than her age. I mean, think about it, I mean 60 years. And well, she talks about, well, that she is in this memory unit with people 80, that's, 80 years old, 90 years old. Of course, there are all kinds of, and possible there are other dementia patients in that unit that are younger than her. It could be 40 years old. So what about that? She hasn't mentioned that, but sometimes, in the facility where I was working, there were people with dementia who are in their 30s, 40 years old, and they have dementia of different level of dementia, right? Because some dementia, it's been originated because of addiction. Some of them with the DNA, something is on the blood, something is an inheritance from the bloodline where the person is coming from. And of course, in the Bruce Willis case, see how speedy he was declining from when he was diagnosed. The prognosis of Bruce Willis. I mean, in 6 months, he couldn't recognize Bruce Willis, right? So in different cases, you have different case situations. So in the case of back to the funding and the process, how it works, the process basically works very much the same way, but in the New Mexico case, right? I told you that I was telling you earlier that in the state of New York, there's no statewide funding, right? The state of New York. And guess what? The state of New York is considered a rich state. One of the richest states in the country. Among them, of course, the top 3 richest states is California, Texas, and New York. So, and New Mexico is considered one of the poorest states in the country, on the 50 states. New Mexico, but New Mexico, the state legislators and state senators, right, they approve funding, they approve a law that provides statewide funding, that the state needs to take care of their people. I mean, they're adult who needs that kind of care, which is guardian for adults, guardian, in which they provide the funding. But New York doesn't do that. New York they take the money from their own individual person, assets. If they, that's how they pay. Lawyers pay, guardians, pay therapists, pay doctors. And of course, like I said before, the municipality, every city or county, if they have little funding, they do help a little bit. Otherwise, are the homeless shelter system that in the case of New York City, they have a very, very big homeless shelter system, which they're ended up with all kinds of people in a facility where we don't know what's going to happen. So guys, those are the one difference between the state of New York and New Mexico state. The first one was that in the case of in New York State, I mean, even institutions like Wells Fargo were able to originate the whole process of guardianship. In New Mexico, the law says that people, individuals, family members, and of course individual people can originate and it's more flexible. That's one of the two difference. The public funding, and anybody can and who can originate the process of guardianship. And also in New Mexico, that allows family members, even they're more flexible with family, which that we don't see that flexibility in the system in New York State. We don't see that flexibility of allowing family members to be the guardian. The priority is whatever the court appoints. The court appoints the guardian, the evaluator, and the examiner, right? Those three people. So far we've been just talking about the guardian, and the whole thing is on the head, on the neck of the guardian, the complaint and everything that she's mean. I mean, the whole thing that she wanna get rid of the guardian and the judge too. I mean, that's what she wanna get off her neck. I mean, that's what she says. I mean, I'm quoting, right? But they are not just the judge and the guardian. There are two more persons: the evaluator and also the examiner, who consolidates, who receives all the reports from that year of, if they have an emergency session. The court allows that a petition, an emergency petition, to hear the case, right? To bring the new evidences to speed up the process of, maybe in a little process they can change, less restrictive guardianship, or set Wendy free, like people are asking, millions of people, of course, asking for many fans. I mean, but this has to be deal with professional people, professional. I mean, especially medical professionals who knows about this, including the doctor who performed the latest test and the Linux, the test that was done 3-4 days ago, in which she says passed this test in a flying colors. So the thing about why not Wendy Williams relatives or family members not that involved. One of the brothers apparently wanted to be involved, and he was contacted, but most of the relatives and family members that we don't see them that much involved in this situation. But well, they give their opinions about what they want for their relative, which is Wendy Williams. But one of the brothers was contacted for the possibility of having maybe a family member to be guardian. But when he asked, he said he didn't know what was going on. He was on the blue, basically. When he was contacted, the whole process was on March, in progress already. That, which is very rare, but the priority in the case of New York is what the judge is appointing the different people to guardians, evaluators, and to take care of this case. So hopefully, if you're one of those people who don't have or have a relative, I mean, that needs public funding, that you don't have that kind of resources like Wendy Williams, of course, or Gene Hackman, or like Bruce Willis. Of course, Bruce Willis in a private setting, in a family setting. In the Bruce Willis case, of course, they have some arrangement in a family situation like that. But if you don't have that kind of asset, of course, New Mexico is an option. Of course, you have to qualify for that. I mean, being a resident of New Mexico, that's one of the qualifications, being a resident at least for 3 months, right? 6 months better. But if you qualify as a resident, you pay taxes there too, of course. That could be helpful. I mean, you're a resident of the state because you pay taxes there. So you can qualify for public funding, or your relative, or somebody somebody you care about, because this issue is about compassion, about caring for others, not just if it's a relative or somebody, a public figure, that in this case, Wendy Williams case that we know of, but it could be anybody, any one of us who knows somebody. So guys, thanks for watching again, and hopefully you like the content. And if you like, please, if you haven't subscribe, and thumbs up if you can. Thanks, and God bless you all. And just one last thing I want to say there is that ultimately, at the end of the day, it's Jesus Christ who saves. Jesus Christ can bring you. This is a message for Wendy Williams. If you have Jesus Christ in your heart, if you're welcome, you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, just like the book of Romans says, and you accept, you repent of your sins and become a child of God, accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, Jesus saves. And dementia is nothing. That's the cure. That's the solution. That's the only cure, the only solution to come 100%. Jesus can make you a new child, a new woman, a new person. Thanks again for watching. My God bless you all. Bye-bye. Take care.